The rhetoric and fighting are heating up in Libya. A fighter jet was brought down over the rebel-held city of Benghazi on Saturday, and now French fighter jets are patrolling the skies there. The most visible signs yet that the international community is prepared not only to talk, but to take action too.
The people of Libya must be protected, and in the absence of an immediate end to the violence against civilians, our coalition is prepared to act.
While Obama is in Brazil, Secretary of State Hillary Clinton traveled to France for an international meeting to determine the next steps in northern Africa. And she says the consensus there is that there is no time to waste.
The world will not sit idly by while more innocent civilians are killed.
Libyan leader Muammar Gaddafi, though, is vowing not to go down without a fight and says the international coalition will regret daring to intervene in Libya.
This is Cody from Truth Exposed Radio, and in this video we're going to take a deeper look at what's going on in this Libyan conflict, which is being waged right now as we speak in northern Africa. We know that the rebel forces in the east are making a military stand against Gaddafi, who resides in the west, along with his allies. And now America, along with many other countries, based on a UN resolution, have decided to become militarily engaged in Libya to help these rebel forces overthrow Gaddafi. And that's exactly what's going on right now. And we know Gaddafi's a tyrant. No one argues that. No one would even try to debate that. He's a tyrant, absolutely. A dictator. But an even more important question to ask yourself is, who are these rebel leaders? Well, it just came out a couple days ago that the head of the rebels, their main leader, talks about how he was an insurgent fighter in Afghanistan, how he fought against American troops. He talks about how he helped recruit insurgent fighters to go to Iraq. In fact, when you look at the statistics, a lot of those insurgents, almost a majority of them, came from Libya, second only to a city in Saudi Arabia. So what we're trying to do here is get a deeper look into what are the alternative motives for the UN getting involved in this, the global powers. Well, we hear also that Al-Qaeda is linked in with these rebel forces. So what is America, especially the ones who were supposedly attacked on 9/11 by Al-Qaeda, doing to help support them? Well, it doesn't make much sense until you really understand the fact that the people on top of Al-Qaeda leading them are the Western powers. They are tied in with the leaders. It's the globalists. It's a global pawn they use. I mean, Al-Qaeda is a very real thing. No one could even deny that. I mean, there are clerics that recruit young men, young boys, the age of 13, 14, and turn them into extremists. And that's going on, without a doubt. So at the very low levels, these are real people that are either brainwashed, they're outraged at what's going on in the Middle East right now with the three wars we're engaged in Pakistan, Afghanistan, and Iraq. And they want to fight America because they view them as the intruders, as the invaders. And they want to expel them from what they see as their homeland. But people such as Anwar al-Awlaki on the top that are supposedly running a lot of this conflict with Al-Qaeda turns out to be dining at the Pentagon months after 9/11.
National Intelligence Agency wants him dead or alive, but apparently the American-born terrorist with ties to the 9/11 hijackers has been a guest of honor at the Pentagon. Julie Kurtz joins us from Washington. You've got to be kidding me.
Yeah, here's what we know. Fox News has learned that Anwar al-Awlaki, the American Muslim cleric, remember him with a worldwide following, dined with military brass at the Pentagon within months of the 9/11 attacks.
And if you want to try to make the argument, oh, well, it must have been some kind of mistake the Pentagon would invite him. Well, if that even is the case, why would Anwar al-Awlaki show up? I mean, wouldn't he clearly think he's just getting set up to get arrested or detained? He would never go. But, of course, al-Awlaki knew that he would be safe if he went. And plus, who makes these kind of mistakes at the Pentagon? I mean, one of the most wanted terrorists gets invited to the Pentagon. No, what we're seeing from this is a blatantly obvious scenario where the top rulers of Al-Qaeda are being used to create this fighting force, this pawn on a chessboard that the globalists and the New World Order can use to selectively put in to start conflicts all across the world. So what does this have to do with Libya? Well, what I believe and what many others believe is going to happen is as these rebel forces topple Gaddafi, he is going to be overthrown, and obviously there will be a power vacuum which will all of a sudden happen in Libya. And who's going to take control? Well, these rebel forces. And what I believe is, as these rebel forces take control, it's going to become obvious that the wrong guys got in power in Libya. And the United States, who said we're not going to invade on the ground, we're going to get out of it. We're just going to use missiles. And they may as well they may just stick to that. In that case, as these rebel leaders get control, they are going to say, look what happens when we don't get involved in who helps to topple these regimes, and we just get our hands out of it, we pick our hands off Libya, this is what happens. So this will be the new scenario. This will be the new game plan. The United States and the Western NATO powers of the UN will say when we give these rebel support, we have to be engaged in land combat, and we have to make sure that the people who we see fit take control of these countries. And that is how the power structure of the Middle East and Northern Africa will be changed over the next few years. It'll be this domino effect from Libya to Egypt to the Ivory Coast into Middle East. Who knows? Saudi Arabia may even fall during this time. It's really unpredictable at this point, but we know that there are many others that will look into this and come to the same conclusion.
Certainly, the Al-Qaeda is a force of obscurantism that opposes modernization, westernization, industrialization, and everything else. The Muslim Brotherhood, which is the mother of Al-Qaeda, was used by the CIA to oppose President Nasser in Egypt. But right now, I think the parallel we ought to think of is look at Gates, look at the people around Carter and Brzezinski and then Reagan, creating Al-Qaeda and giving them these Stinger missiles and other means. Imagine what happens if this group, this gaggle of terrorists in Benghazi, imagine if they take over the oil revenue of Libya. They're going to have billions and billions of dollars, and the CIA is now arming them. They're smuggling in or shipping in weapons from Egypt with the collusion of the Egyptian army.
By the way, that's in the Associated Press. They're not even denying that. And then a month, a year, 2 years later, everyone will forget that the West backed them. Then we'll have to invade again because Al-Qaeda has now taken control of Libya, and no one will even remember this.
Right, and Al-Qaeda can then install, bigger and better surface-to-air missiles on the northern coast and interdict all the traffic in the Mediterranean. So goodbye, Mediterranean.
Well, it's simple. Al-Qaeda has always been the globalist weapon, and they're now using it again. I mean, how obvious does this have to get? Webster...